This is not going to be a perfect boat. We're sitting in a forest here, in case our viewers hadn't noticed. A little gem of a boat. Have some fun with her. This is such a pretty boat. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one.
Where am I?
Where are you? We are in the town of Arundel, Maine. Arundel is a really old town. We're sandwiched between the Kennebunks, Kennebunk Port and Kennebunk, with ready access to the ocean where you can recreate and eat to your heart's delight and go sailing. Go on a nice big old schooner, and that's kind of fun. We've had two presidents that have lived in Kennebunkport. They both have the same name, and I think they shared the same quarters, Mr. Bush and Mr. Bush. Also here is the Landing Boat School. And the Landing Boat School, you can go take a 4-year course, learn a little English and a little math, but you really learn how to build sailboats or power boats.
Oh, cool.
It's one of the top rated in the country. It's right here in town. We found here a boat that I think is pretty interesting. It happens to have been designed by our old friend Mr. Tripp, William Tripp, who designed the PB. He had been working in the Rhodes design department and then later on went to war for a while, like a lot of good naval people did in those days. And then after that went to work for Sparkman Stevens and ended up coming and doing design work for the Seafair Yacht Corporation. And Seafair Yacht Corporation was really originally just a distributor of boats designed by Rhodes. The first 3 boats that they brought in were all Rhodes designs. There was a Swiftsure, and then a Meridian and a Ranger. They were all smaller boats, all under 30 feet or so. So beautifully done boats. I remember seeing some of those back when they were still kind of new, and they were very solid. Dutch craftsmanship was beautiful. They eventually moved the whole company from the Netherlands to Long Island and started to build there. And they built some 30 or 35 different models of sailboat fiberglass models that were done by different designers. But I think what maybe a lot of our viewers might really enjoy today is the fact that this is not going to be a perfect boat, and believe me, it's priced appropriately. So if you want to get in and learn about boats, you want to put something in your backyard and spend another year or 2 years or something fiddling with it and really learning what it takes to pull a boat together, you can end up with a little gem, I think, a little gem of a boat, 31-footer.
Little diamond in the rough?
It is a diamond in the rough. We've seen diamonds in the rough before, haven't we?
Yeah, we've seen them polished up, too.
And we have seen them polished up, and boy, do they look good when they are, like that Hinckley 41. Oh my gosh, that was something.
That Sea Sprite 28.
Sea Sprite 28, and how about the Gulf Star 50 that went from, practically trash to Tiffany's finish to it. So really lovely. Check this out.
Oh yeah, it definitely seems like Bill Tripp.
Is this pretty?
Very.
And very pretty. Nice spoon bow to her. Lovely bit of shear, just a gentle shear, not overly exaggerated. What's kind of interesting at this boat right off the bat, it has a fin keel that really didn't come out till sort of later on in many ways, with a separate rudder with a skeg on it, okay? And Olin Stevens and those people were doing this somewhere, a little bit later on. So Bill Tripp was a little bit ahead with this. We see another one of these sort of strange bustles coming back from the keel that we saw on the Irwin, but that does nothing more. It gives you room to carry the shaft out of the hull and have the engine located as far back as you can. So this is mainly, if you didn't have an engine in there, you'd probably cut that right out. Top sides have got lots of little scratches and dings and warps in them. I'm not going to tell you necessarily to put this in the water right away. I think this would be good to take home and just start buffing and I'd probably clean it from the tow rail down.
Yep.
And then paint it. And then you walk out to the boat every day and you say, this is such a pretty boat. And her bottom is actually quite fair. We can see some old blue bottom paint underneath this red. You'd want to chip that away. If we're doing this the right way, let's make it perfect. There's not a lot of through hulls on this boat. We have forward here a flat a flat piece, and I think it's nice and clean too, which is nice to see. That's for the depth sounder, so that will work. Never paint over the face of that depth sounder because the little pinging sound won't get through it.
It'll always be 1 inch deep.
Exactly. This is the counter for the hull. This area in here is referred to as the counter, and it's a lot longer than they were doing historically, and it was also, the other thing about it was not only longer, but it was also lower. So you can look at some older boats in this, and this transom would be up much higher. It was a little more graceful look. This is stretched out, and Tripp he had an eye for good-looking boats and good-looking designs, but he also had the brain to tell him that, if I stretch this counter down a little lower, he was a great believer in prismatic coefficients, what had to do with the sailing wave created by the boat and how far aft you could extend that. And if the further aft you extend the wave, the faster the boat's going to go before you get into being overpowered. And that's basically what he tried to do by lowering this. He really extended the whole length of the boat, but still gave it adequate buoyancy back here. I probably just mutilated a whole bunch of naval architecture concepts, but that's basically it. So what do you think? Should we go topsides?
Yeah.
Okay, Randy, come on up, pal. There's no fooling here. This boat is old and it's tired and it needs help. But this is what's going to be fun about having this boat for somebody who wants their own project. To take, this is almost a museum piece in some ways. Now remember, we're on a boat that's only 1 foot longer than the 30-foot Shields, right? She's really pretty. She has a nice low cabin doghouse trunk, kind of an interesting cockpit, nice curvature to it, and it has this board that was done in here at some point, probably original. That would be fun to take all down, maybe pull out, replace. But it is a nice feature. What do you call that?
Maybe beadboard?
Beadboard, yeah, I'll go with that. The Traveler for the main sheet. This is all pretty basic. It's just a little old Nyko Traveler, I think. Back here, there used to be normally a lazarette here in this boat, a place to store all the buckets. It's your garage, a little garage on here. But somebody along the line has installed this fiberglass case to take your propane tanks. And there's two 20-pound tanks sitting here. And that's got a nice seal. You know how we like to have that rubber seal?
Yep.
That's nice. And a good latch, so you can button that puppy right down, and it's going to be tight. Cockpit is really pretty long and nice. You'll sail along and you'll get a lot of admiring glances because this boat has got a really pretty sheer to it and that low cabin trunk. Originally she came out with a tiller, and there's a tiller opening right here where you can also put an emergency tiller right down here in the bottom of the footwell. And there's another inspection port for other wiring and so forth. This has got a brand new looking Edson top of the line pedestal wheel steering mechanism, and there's a recent Garmin GPS and the single engine throttle control up here. The single engine throttle control is very nice. He's let all the lines, the halyards and the sheets and the reefing lines come back right through the line stoppers back to a little Barlow winch there, and just beneath those after that, look at all your engine controls, how nice and shiny those are. We have a couple little latches here. And just tons of storage here. Just screaming out for soap and water, tender love and care. But that's a very deep hatch there. So plenty of room down in there.
Here's something we haven't seen.
What's that?
A scupper that leads to another scupper.
Aha! We call that double scuppering. Yeah, if you're heeling over, you're going to get water. Let's say you're sitting down this side. Water always collects in the corner of the seat, right? So this way it's going to drain down here, shoop, and then shoot right out.
Yep, down there.
At the bottom of the footwell, right down here. And then drain into the actual scupper itself.
What do you think of this combing and this railing on the combing?
Oh, I think it's quite handsome.
Yeah.
It's sort of a bleed over really from the old wooden boat days. That's something you'd find in a wooden boat. Today everything is molded, right? So these decks pop out of molds and everything has been molded, and it just cuts down on labor. That's handsome. Let's go look forward, huh? Now as you come forward, Randy, look down at your feet there, you'll see the genoa track. See, there's no track on the tow rail itself, just on the inboard track. And I think probably if we measured that, we'd find that's on the 6 or 7 degree line off of the headstay to give this boat a nice tight sheeting angle for your jib or genoas. A nice little bow pulpit up here, chain locker, and probably, I don't know, 150 feet of nylon 3-strand rode right here.
One thing I'm noticing is a little sponginess to the deck.
We were warned about that, that there is some sponginess, and I bet if somebody bought this boat, they'd probably discover it, and a surveyor would point out exactly where it is, and with recommendations what to do. But this is going to be a little project.
Yeah.
And but when you're finished, you're going to have sort of a, what would you say?
Diamond. Fully polished after you fix
it. It will be fully polished. It actually has no balsa in the decking. They were just using plywood under here.
Okay.
And that's part of the problem, because the plywood will, the water will travel through the plywood as opposed to distinct separate end pieces of balsa that are put on top of the underlayer and then covered over. This mast is stepped on deck. Following models of this boat, they did go through the deck and mount it on the keel. Appears to be in good shape. Nice solid piece of heavy gauge. I think that's aluminum right there. And we have the chain plates over here, and those appear to be glassed right into the hull, which would not have been unusual back then. Look at this. Why do we like that? This cleat here?
Oh, yeah, springline cleat.
Springline cleat, exactly. And people just don't think about it. And it's actually cut into the space where the tow rail was. This hatch is huge. One of the nice things about it is the fact that the companionway is really large. It's going to let light but give you privacy down in the cabin. And look at the extra deck space that opens up when I close this, huh? Really very
nice.
roomy. Let's take a look below. What do you think? Want to come on down?
Let's go check it out.
So Randy, come on down, pal.
All right, thanks.
Yep, nice companionway. Notice that too, by the way. Isn't that a nice wide companionway?
Yeah, I like there's a little step up in the cockpit.
And a little step up in the cockpit. You really kind of feel like you're in one of the older wooden boat designs. Just everything from the deck beams to, I can look under here. There's no overhead covering for the side deck beamings and so forth. And the woodwork in here is simple. Everything in here has been painted over at some point. And I think you could improve on the paint job. But for the time being, it works.
Would you strip it down?
Well, some people would, yeah. Now, go back to that Hinckley 41. Actually, I asked him about that paint, and he had all that beautiful teak bulkhead showing and everything.
Yeah.
He said they were all covered with oil-based paint. He stripped all those right down to bare wood.
Wow.
And the result was fantastic. So it's as much of a project as you'd want to make for yourself with a boat like this. But she's fun. We have a dining table here for 2 people. There's a nice long quarter berth here on the starboard side. And like everywhere on this boat, there's storage underneath these cushions, and also storage outboard. You just have to find the little latch here, which I did earlier. Look at that, nice storage. Same thing over here, more of the same. So lots of dry storage. Underneath this berth, you see the cushions here come up. This is great now, it needs to be cleaned up. But this is all molded. This is a molded section.
So why would they do that?
Well, a couple of things. I think they found it's an easy way to build the internal components of the boat. It's a way to keep water from running up into bilge compartments. So anything you put in there is going to be dry. If you notice, all this stuff is actually quite drusty. Oodles of storage. You know about oodles, right?
Goes well with Dinty.
Yes. We didn't really check this out before. This has been closed off. We have a little hatch here to get to our batteries, which is very convenient. So here's your electrical panel. Here are your batteries. They're nice and high and dry, and we like that. Also, we've got port lights here all throughout the boat. These have been opened up. They each have screens on them, and today that's very nice because the main national bird is on the loose right now. That's the mosquito. I'm standing in the molded pan that I was talking about too. This whole pan underneath the boat is molded into it. And underneath these seats, we've got storage on this side as well. And as you can see, there's all sorts of room to put anything you want to in there, right? Here's a galley. Look at this galley now. This isn't deluxe, but we've got a 2-burner stove. We have an oven underneath it right here. And this looks, I don't know, I don't know if much people use these ovens, but I know when you get offshore, they love to bake bread in those.
Did you ever bake bread?
No. Is it easy?
On the PB? No bread?
No. My bread came in cellophane.
I do recall some TV dinners.
Oh, yeah. Well, those are PB dinners. Or PB-TV dinners.
PBTV.
You ate them, though. They weren't all that bad. So
Well,
take that smirk off your face.
two days of starving and you'll eat anything. I'll eat my shoe.
You did, I think, one time.
It tasted the
You
same.
shared it with everybody. We don't have the world's biggest sink, but it's about midships and it's far enough inboard. And back in, again, these early days, you didn't need a whole lot of pressure water and everything doing all this fancy stuff we do today. So here's a little pump, and this is kind of a little antique fixture here. And it had an icebox arrangement, and all molded into the law in there and everything. And so, oh my God, yep.
Oh.
This is another one of those guys, huh?
Yep.
Jeez. God, an awful lot of them.
Knows how to celebrate a good voyage.
Exactly. And there's a little storage space over here in the rack at the back. You can put your spices in and not much more. Directly beside the galley is a hanging locker with shelving in the back of it, which is just a nice little touch. A place you could actually bury canned goods if you wanted to. Anything you haven't stored underneath one of the seat lockers.
Would you be concerned at all about this, the cabin sole on the bottom of this? Because it looks, I mean, obviously this is one of those things where we...
Look at this piece of stainless coming down here that's bolted right to the bottom of the boat. That carries the load up to this post above us and then over here to the port side and then all right down the bulkhead again. This is your mast support. It's brutal. I mean, it's actually, this will be the last thing standing if this boat blows up. It's really, really well done. I don't think that was originally put in the boat. You don't have to worry about this mast compressing on the top of the deck. This is all one-piece molding right here, okay? And here's your molded build. And we've got, actually have a little standing water here. And that's just water. There's no oil or anything on particularly. I can see there might be a little bit. No, it seems to, this is probably accumulated. We're sitting in the backyard of the owner's house in the woods in Maine. And water can find its way to get into the boat. But see how this molded section here? Now there's going to be a 6-inch viewing port that should be screwed in here. You can see where it was. It's nice how this unit has separated the hull from anything you want to keep dry and shipshape inside the boat. Boat comes with a head.
Yeah.
So there we go. There is a flush and place for your toilet paper and
There's some
spared.
some reading material and replenishment.
Yes, exactly. There's instructions on the back side of that can if you turn it around.
Not that you need it. You just like come over here, pump it, you're good.
You can open the door and do it.
You're right there.
It's a V-berth arrangement. He's got a couple of nice 6-inch cushions up there. And there's a nice size hatch overhead. And those are pretty long berths for a 31-footer. There's a mainsail and a jib lying on those two bunks. And it's been reported to us that they are very old. What do you say we take a look at the engine here? Suspend this above. You see that?
Look at that.
And it's not very heavy.
Not for someone of your stature.
Now this boat's been sitting here for 4 years. Basically here, I'm looking at the injectors on the starboard side of the engine, and they look kind of like they've been replaced not long ago. And everything else is good. There's some surface rust and dust.
Needs a new alternator.
He did, and he said this just wasn't putting out right away. So these things are not very expensive. The original engine on here was a Westerbeek engine, and he pulled that out, and when he put it back in, they probably had to reset the footings for the engine, and these blocks got installed there, but they're solid as anything. That engine's not going anywhere. I noticed that the raw water pump impeller was not pulled out on the boat, or at least doesn't appear to be, so that would be nice to get that out of there and get a new one ready to go for sure.
Do you do those every year?
Every year, take it out. Don't let the boat sit on the hard with that like that, because it'll just they're little rubber things that are in there, like kind of like this, and they'll take a set. Can you see that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And these spin around, and if you don't take it out, they'll stay in that position. They won't snap out, and they do need to be flexible so that they can do the actual pumping motion of bringing raw water in to the engine to cool the engine off. It's a fun project we're sitting down in here right now, and you know, a couple of young people put it in their backyard. they could live on it. They could live up in the forward companionway and in the forward V-berth and come back and work on the boat. What do you think?
Love it.
Fun day, huh? Did you have a good time?
Oh yeah.
I did too. We had a chance to go look at a Seafarer 31. This is one of Bill Tripp's earlier designs, and you know what? She was tired. She's been around for a long time, 50 years, and she just needs somebody to come have some fun with her. Take this home, and I often say take it and drop it in the water and go sailing and see what it needs. You could do that, but I think the best thing really, frankly, would be to, after you've surveyed it and you're sure that the boat is sound enough for you to own and insure, take the boat home and start working on it. Pull it apart, piece by piece, and rebuild it. And you'll have a really fun, neat, pretty boat. They're lovely under sail. This is not a boat for the captain here, because I've passed that period in my life, but I would have liked that, maybe 50 years ago.
It would be brand new then.
That's true. Good point. I would have liked it then. I think it's time we give it a little bit of a rating. The boat's a 10. It floats. It's been floating a lot up until about 3 or 4 years ago. Let's give it a Bill Tripp 3, okay, for a period piece. And I'm going to give it an extra 4 because this is a boat that's worth working on. So I'm going to give it, it's a 4 for worth working on. How's that sound?
I like it.
What does that add up to?
We're going to go with 17.
17, yep. That might seem kind of high in some ways, but thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little session. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. So we're having too good a time doing these things, so you're going to hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here,
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes a little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.